So, how efficient was the use that you applied to this last 3 weeks of Mercury in retrograde? Yeah, I'm asking that question very specifically because Mercury retrograde actually presents us with an ideal time, and Mercury for this particular cycle was in one of the signs that it rules. How efficient, did you reflect upon things that you might be considering doing? And one method of doing that is to actually really look into very specifically, very hard at what are the things that you are aiming for. Using a Mercury retrograde to work on that? Good idea. Anyway, because Mercury went direct, it's no longer retrograde on Friday evening, night of this last week. So now we're moving forward. Let's bring up a chart. We'll get to that background that I have there showing, but just not yet. Okay. This is a solar week. That's where my focus is going to be in what it is that transpires. And these are solar aspects that, you have to make sure that if you're going to tune into the solar dance, you're not going to be accomplishing it in as light a fashion as you might be inclined to do with something that you're really kind of not going to give your all into. Because the sun, the core of our solar system, is extremely vital in our makeup. That solar part of us, it radiates out potency in all directions. And for this week, as the sun goes through those last few degrees of Virgo, this is the last week of Virgo, folks, and it's actually going to shift. But we'll get to that. Right off the bat, I go, well, we have this opposition, this strong opposition forming between the Sun and Neptune over here in Pisces across this 6th, 12th house axis kind of energy. Now, from the astronomical perspective, Neptune, on the far side of the sun from us, because right now the sun is in Virgo. Oh, I take that back. Maybe it's on the same side of the sun as us, because this is where Earth is, here in the center of the chart. And so it's on the same side of the sun as us. And then on out beyond, out into Virgo land. No, we have Pisces. So that actually is going to kick that energy up just a wee bit more. Yeah, Neptune is in retrograde, so it might be asking us questions. And because it's Neptune, application of some level of concentration is always required when conversing with Neptune. And the reason why is because Neptune represents a level of unlimited imagination. It's in the sign of Pisces right now, where that imaginary trajectory that we are on is asking us, are we being effective in our connection to creation? And I'm going to develop this just a little bit further, because the very next day, kind of see the sun over here at 26. The very next day, the sun moves into a trine with Pluto, also in retrograde up here in Capricorn. Well, this Pluto-Neptune dance, this is a sextile dance. These are energies that actually, there's an energetic connection between them that is a little bit more readily capable of being effective in the messages that flow back and forth between this Pluto and Neptune thing. And I've mentioned this before, but when I was born back in 49, yes, way back in 49, Pluto and Neptune were in an exact sextile at 15 degrees of Pluto and 15 degrees of Leo and 15 degrees of Libra. And they, they're outer planets, so they do kind of a unique orbital dance. And since that was 74 years ago, they're still bouncing in and out of this sextile aspect. But let's bring it into the current. We're talking Pluto doing its retrograde dance back into that Capricornian field of how might the most effective utilization transpire for organization or control factors of any group endeavor. Neptune, here in Pisces, well, we already mentioned that, so I don't need to mention it again. So if I just take these two energies, the Pluto and the Neptune, and say, what's the level of conversation that they might be entertaining between themselves out there on essentially the same side of that solar orb as us, but way out there. But way out there. They're still potent. These are powerful transmutational type energies at work. And always, when planets are retrograde, which these are, it gives us the opportunity of tuning into a perspective that they are allowing to unfold and asking us to participate with, that is related to the energy fields they inhabit. So that Capricorn, Pluto, and that Neptune in Pisces, I want to really get you to feel the potential of what is transpiring there, because they're both right now being inspired this week by that solar energy. There's an aspect of our solar selves that is being influenced, or at least tickled a little bit, by what kind of energy is that conversation about. Pluto's about, that transmutation, total transubstantiation of something. So it's in the process of taking that group control type energy and saying, as it's going backwards, have I effectively been able to cut through the the many layers of illusion that is possible within the realm of the collective, and how it is being controlled to the point where I can focus on what is within me that wants to basically be planted and grow out of a new level of substance that is being provided to open up by the exposure of things that have not been necessary that clear within that Capricornian realm. And we take and shift our energy down to the sextile with Neptune in Pisces. And the question might be, have I been honest with any level of communication that I have been stimulated to consider as far as my connection to creation? And if you take these two elements, that Plutonian and that Neptunian, and tie them together right now, Pluto is trying to provide us with opportunity by opening up channels of our awareness to things that we really should know as we investigate those profound and deeper realms of the creative impulse. Sun over in Virgo says, I'm in my last week of this sign. Mercury has finally, my ruler, finally moved into direct motion. Picture this, if you will. If we have been deliberate in our utilization of that Virgoan context as part of our makeup, are people coming to you and asking you to share your insight into what it is that you understand as an intrigue to them to perhaps become mentees to your mentorship? That is essential, Virgo. Here is the capacity for the mentor to share what it is that they have gleaned by investigating things effectively enough that others do become interested. That's kind of the main solar energy that has intrigued me when I looked at what was transpiring this week. There's always other celestial conversations going on, but I don't want to, I could probably talk for 2 or 3 hours on any chart. I usually do. When I do chart readings, it takes about 2 or 3 hours to actually develop the story process of what it is that is continuing to unfold in a person's life. And that's exactly what astrology is. It's a look at energy patterns that exist in the realm of potential. And then we have to make the determination as to how effective we want to be and what exactly is our living experience going to intrigue us to follow as we grow and develop our soul selves. That's essentially how I see astrology working. And we're just going to keep on going, because on if you watch this now. You see, 28. So 2 more days. Boom, boom. We have just entered the fall equinox, the sign of Libra. You go pictured by the scales, ruled by Venus. Venus is a symbol. If you look at the actual symbology of Venus, which is the circle of spirit over the cross of matter. It's a relationship with spirit through the beauty and people of the world. Some of the Libra archetypal images are artist, diplomat, peacemaker, lover, lawmaker, decorator, host. You know, we often don't recognize that artistic side that Venus represents. You know, when I was actually back along the way in a spiritual organization, there was a term called the art of living. Well, Libra represents an aspect of that art of living, which is the artistic connection that we form bonds with each other in the invitation back and forth between us to develop something that is hopefully harmonic. Libra, seeking harmony, and enhances our capacity to see that art of living with each other. We're coming into Libra. At the end of this week, you kind of see here we're in Saturday. Fall equinox. You know, what does it mean, equinox? That means that the daylight hours and the night hours have reached a equilibrium where there's just as many daylight hours as there are as night hours. And from this point on, here on the northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, just exactly the opposite. Our days are going to become just a little bit shorter as we approach the winter solstice. So, harvest season. That's usually what this September fall equinox represents. The fruits of the fields are making themselves even more known, or maybe it is, depending on where you live, maybe there's a waning process that is seen as the daylight hours wane themselves. Because I know that we've been getting stuff out of the garden for a month and a half, 2 months anyway. And it's a very natural process. And the trees, oh my gosh, the colors on the trees are starting to show up here in the Northwest. And I've been raking leaves for the last 3 weeks to a month that have just been, coming off enough to keep me busy raking leaves. About every 3 days I go out and I rake leaves off the driveway to, keep them from becoming dirt, which they will upon the driveway, which doesn't really make the driveway that much nicer to utilize. If it would just get all kind of muddy. Fall. It's kind of a magical time of year because it's you get, how the spring equinox, when we days and nights were equal in April, we get these thoughts, of exploration, that Aryan energy to go out and, find the potential enhancing kind of energies that we can share with one another. And we've had essentially the growing summer months to develop that process of how we engage with one the fall equinox. It begins a process of drawing closer with those on our wavelength that have uh, demonstrated that we can trust one another in such a unique fashion that we want to develop a deeper awareness of what that potential partnership might grow into as we head into the darker time of year, where things, kind of draw in just a little bit closer. There isn't necessarily that urge to spread ourselves thin around the rest of the world. I'm going to stop this chart share. I want to show you something. The symbol behind me. This last week, actually last couple weeks, I got into rewatching the interviews between Bill Moyer and Joseph Campbell. And as I was doing this, inspiration, absolute inspiration. This is one of the images that was on a movie that I discovered called Finding Joe. And it was one of those side things on the YouTube window that while I was watching this one particular presentation of the interview between Joseph and Bill, and I went, Finding Joe, I wonder what they're talking about. Well, what I discovered was that Finding Joe was a movie about finding this, what Joseph Campbell was talking about. Excellent movie. Absolutely. You could show it to anybody. And it has age relevance from youngest people to the oldest people as they go on this follow your bliss, or the sacred journey of discovering what the hero's process is. And they talked about this circle of experience. You can kind of see this arrow down here as being that hero's journey. And you can tap into it absolutely anywhere in the circle. And my own discovery is that you can bounce around in here depending on the experiences that you're going through as showing relevance to one step of this experience. And each of these steps is like coming to an edge where something needs to transition within you in order to take that next step beyond an edge. And this is, this should not be seen as a circle. Yeah, it looks like a circle because of the, two-dimensional process that you can show on things. It really is a spiral that often repeats itself. Because as we get to one level of our awareness, we've gone from the wasteland around to the treasure, there might be a new step for us to take, a new level of initiation, a new threshold to cross as we do this thing, spiral of life. You could, if you want, you can take a screenshot of this. It's in the movie, and I'm going to show you as a little. No, that's not it. Okay, what's the deal? Here we go. This is one scene right at the very beginning of the movie, and the reason I'm putting it is up there is this is the name of the movie right up here in this upper left-hand corner, Finding Joe. It's the full movie. Deepak Chopra was a part of it. That was why I was intrigued to watch it, and I have to recommend it highly. It's on YouTube. It's an hour and 20 minutes long, worth every second. And you know, you can take a screenshot of this just to remind you of the name Finding Joe. It should be easy to remember. But, you know, Mercury's direct now. Our memory bank should be firing just a wee bit better. Anyway, I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to say thank you for participating in this celestial dance this week. And follow your bliss. There's something very magical about the experience of meditating into that state of bliss. I guarantee you, it doesn't always necessarily happen automatically. Meditate. Take chances. Step across those thresholds that seem to be in your way. Challenge yourself. Become more of the soul being that you were intended to be. So I'm going to sign off for now. Have a great week.